Good morning. Welcome to AP Computer Science A. Today we are going to be covering section 2.4, which deals with classes and objects. We actually have been talking about classes from the very first day, correct? And we actually have been dealing with objects, but we just haven't called them objects yet. Before we get to that, we know that we have two types of data types, correct? Where you can store, we have variables of primitive type and we have variables of reference type, or we also call them of class type. So therefore, we know the primitive types are what? Integers, ints, double, and boolean. Besides that, we have chars, we have float, we have long, but the only ones that we're going to be using mostly in this class will be ints, double, and boolean. Those are the primitive types. Those are the ones that we can actually be stored in the stack. Now we have reference type or class types. And the one that we've been using in this class is a string. Now, we are not going to be developing our own objects, not until Unit 5. In Unit 5, we are going to be creating our own objects, and you get to decide and design them. But for now, we need to make sure that we understand what is an object. We know the strings are an object, and whenever I ask you guys what is an object, and I'll ask you, it has two things. Objects will have a state, they will have a behavior. The state is going to be the fields, and the behavior are going to be the methods. And we are going to think today, let's go think about creating an object. So therefore, it needs to have two things. And whenever we create an object, we're actually going to be creating a class first, so we can actually create objects. When you create a class, you will have two things: fields and methods. That is the state and the behavior. The states are going to be the fields, the variables, and the behavior are going to be the methods, the things that they can do. So let's assume that we are going to create a class. We're going to create, it's going to be like the class will be the blueprint. And once we have the blueprint to create something, we can actually, it's like a mold, and we can actually just create several of many of them that will have the same fields and the same methods. So let's think about creating a class. Let's say that because we're going to, once you create a class, you can create several objects of the same class. So let's say that we want to be able to create a rubber duck. So we want to be able to create a I'll fix it in 1 second. So let's say that we are going to be creating a rubber duck. And therefore, we need to be able to decide what type of fields and what type of methods. So let's go and write it down. So the fields is going to be the state. And the methods is going to be the behavior. So therefore, the state, the fields, is going to be what are the characteristics of this duck? What does it have? Well, it has a beak, so the field is going to be a beak. So therefore, every single duck that we are going to create out of the blueprint is going to have a beak. What else should you have? You should have a tail. It should also have wings, hopefully 2. You can have eyes, and it should have a, that's maybe a crest. But let's go and leave out those 4 things. And now, what is the behavior of a duck? We know that a rubber duck can squeak. So that'll be the behavior. What else can it do? It can swim. And once you have those 2 things, you have the blueprint, and you know that all of your ducks will have a beak, a tail, a wing, and eyes, and 2 eyes, and that they all will have to squeak, and they can also swim. Now that you have the blueprint, now that you have the mold, now that will be your class. And now we can create duckies. Now has a beak, a tail, 2 wings, 2 eyes. It can squeak and it can swim. And now because we have a blueprint, we can actually just make other duckies. They'll have a beak, a tail, a wing, 2 eyes. It can squeak, slightly different, and it can swim. And we can make an infinite number. Yeah, it's a beak, a tail, 2 wings, 2 eyes. And we can continue making more objects of the class. So once we have a mold, we can make an infinite number of duckies. They all have a beak, a tail, 2 wings, 2 eyes, can squeak, and they can swim. And we can have an infinite number. Let's see if I can find one that squeaks. Oh, there we go. Therefore, once you have a class, you constructed a class, that is the mold, where you can actually, you can have a different color. If you want to be able to have a one of the fields to be a color, then you can just say the color, so we can have pink. And then we can actually name them. So this will be Mikey, Sophie, Patrick, David. And therefore, we can actually call them and say, okay, what is the color of, was Mikey? Yellow. Oh, that was Sophie, right? Mikey was green. And then we can identify and we can select each one of them by their name. That was the handle that we used on the last section. So the handle will be the name, and then we can actually say, okay, what color is it? Or can it squeak? Yes, and make it squeak. That'll be the method that we are using. So remember that a class is going to be the mold, the blueprint, and the objects are going to be each of them separate ducks. So now we've been using duckies, well, not duckies, we'll be using classes back from the first section. So from the first section, we use classes which were the string. We actually use the object, correct? And the way that we actually create a string was string, and we just say name, we declare it, then we initialize it, correct? But now we know that we can actually we prefer to do this in one step. We declare it and we initialize in the same step. That's when we basically, the string is the class, that is the blueprint. Name is the name, just like this is Sophie or Mikey. And the behavior, and it has characters. That'll be the fields. The behavior will be the length, two uppercase, two lowercase, substrings. Those are the behaviors, those are the methods that it has. Now, when we construct new objects of a class, we're going to say it's an object of a class, or we're going to say is a reference of a class. So you say it's an object or is a reference to a class. Now, well, actually, the instance of a class. So we say it's at, we'll keep track of that. No. So we say so string is the class, name is the name of the variable of the object, or we say the instance of a class. So sometimes you'll see here as an object, sometimes you'll hear as an instance of the class. It is the same thing. And it has Mike, it basically is composed of letters, that is the fields. And the behavior will be two uppercase, two lowercase, length. That is the behavior. Substring, index of, compared to, those are the behaviors. Now, when we construct a new class, we actually should be using the following. New, the keyword new. And this is the proper way of creating an object. This is the proper way of creating an instance of the class, of the string class. Notice that if I go ahead and then go ahead and say system system.out.println, and then we say name. Does that work? Let's try it. So this is the proper way of doing it. But because we use strings so often that we actually just do it the other way. So if you have it this way, or we have it just a simple way, you'll actually run the same way. But the proper way of creating a object of a class, or a reference or an instance of a class, is the following. And does that look familiar? Have we used that before? Yeah, we have. When have we used it? We've used it when we actually have done the import Java the utility the scanner class, correct? That is when we actually have used the scanner class, and the way that we actually scan equals new scanner system value. And the only thing that we're going to be using in this class for the scanner is the system.in. That basically is going to get input from the user from the keyboard. But let's say that you want to be a little more advanced, and later on you want to be able to see what else that the scanner can do. So why do we need to go to just name it scan? Well, actually you can name it anything you want. You can name it keyboard, and that will be the handle. So whenever you do as a user system.println and say enter your name, because you use let me just I'm gonna keep that for now, because you use keyboard as the handle, as the variable name. Therefore, whenever you say string, and let's say I already have names, so let's say a equals, because you use keyboard, then the handle is keyboard dot next line. Correct? So, but because we're just going to be using only one, we should just say scan, and we type this scan. So this is a variable name. You can actually choose to name it anything you want. Well, not anything you want, because there's some keywords that you cannot use, and there's a list on your notes. But you can also research. So let's say you want to be able to find out more about the scanner class. You can just do a quick search, scanner Java class. So let's just say scanner class Java. And we're going to be doing this a little more often now. And the one that I want you guys to use, I want you guys to use the makers of Java is Oracle. So therefore, this will take you to the following. So notice that we use the scanner, and now if you want to be able to get input from a file, so now instead of doing new scanner and then system.in, then you can say new file and then the name of the file. But we're not going to be doing it in this class. If you want to be able to find out, then get a book such as this. For this class, we're going to cover, let's see, about this much of this book. But then the other ones will deal with streams, files, graphics, string, JavaX, JavaFX. But for now, the scanner can do different things. So let's say you have two different inputs. You have a keyboard, then you're going to have this one here, and you're going to use scan. But then at the same time, you want to be able to get input from the file, then you can have a new variable, and it's going to be new scanner, but instead of this, it's going to be new file, and then the name of the file. And therefore, we can have different variables that will do different things, correct? It's still the same class, still scanner, is still the same blueprint, but now the same way that this one squeaks this way, right? They all squeak, but they all do it in different manners. So that's basically it. Sophie, I forgot her names. Now the same thing with strings. So let's get rid of this line. We're not going to talk about scanner any longer, but remember that you do use the keyword new, and that's going to go into, once we go into like lesson 2.5, we're going to be talking about constructors, and then we're going to come back to the word new. So slowly we're getting to a little more understanding of Java and the code that we are using. Sometimes we use it, and then we kind of find out later on how it works. But even with strings, let's say you want to be able to find out more about strings. What else can we do? Because we know we cover, what do we cover? Length, substring, we cover index of, two uppercase, two lowercase, compared to, and then we briefly touched about equals. But we're going to come back to that later. Some more. So now, let's assume that you want to be able to find out all the methods that string has, because we're only going to cover a few. Do the same thing. Go into and search for string class Java. And the one that we want is the Oracle one. That's going to provide you with all the information that you need to know about that class. It's going to give you the constructors, that we're going to be talking about constructors on 2.5, and the methods that we've used so far. And here's a list of all the methods that we have. We talked about length, so therefore length should be right here. That's the one we use. We also talked about index of. We use this one here. Notice that there are three of them, and we'll talk about why there are three. We also compared to. Compared to should be right over here. That's what the one we talked about. But it has two uppercase, two lowercase should be in there as well. But notice the number of fields, the number of methods that it has. Methods are the behavior. That is the behavior. How they swim, how they squeak. That is the behavior. Fields are the characteristics, what they have. They all have a beak. They all have wings. Oh, you can see. There. But for now, the only methods that are tested on your AP exam are the ones that we cover. And that's it. That is what this section is about. But we can actually cover a bit more. So one of the things that we talked about is, let's say we have, and let's just go and simplify, because we're not going to, you can't construct an object of the class string by using the keyword new, but we have a simpler way of doing this, right? And that's because we just use it so often, they just simplify it for us to make it just a little bit easier. What if I want to be able to print, I know, once again, what if I want to be able to print the last, Michael Jordan. I was watching the movie The Last Dance, or this series. Michael Jordan. So let's go and talk about Michael Jordan. That is the name. What if I want to be able to print the first three letters? Well, let's go and first save it, and then we can print it, and then we can talk about just doing everything at once. So let's say we want to be able to print the first four letters. How will we do this? We're going to say string, and part, that'll be the name of the part of it, equals, and it'll be name. We're going to have to do the handle. There'll be substring. Then we are going to do from 0 all the way to, we want the first four letters, so we're going to type in, so it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And most of the time you want to be able to take the time to write it down, or one of the things that if you have code, and you can just place it right here. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? If we want to be able to type in the first four letters, it'll be up to the number 3. It has to be the fourth, because the fourth one's not going to print. And then we can run it, and it's going to print part instead of just name. And that's what we covered last time, right? If we want to be able to print the last four letters, then how can we print the last four letters? Well, this is 7, 8, 9, this will be 10, 11, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So the length is 14 letters, correct? So therefore, if we want to be able to print the last four letters, it will be 14, the length, minus 4. And therefore, that should give me ORDAN. But let's assume that we are going to get, and you guys did this on the code yesterday. So let's go and make sure I have my import statement on top, which I do. So let's go and say that we're going to get the input of the user. So let's go and say scan equal to new scanner.system.in, correct? And we're going to ask, instead of just typing in the name, we're going to ask We're going to say enter your full name. And one of the things that you, and then let's go and do the scan. One of the things that we did last time on your code was let's go and print the last 4 letters. And most of you guys did the following. You actually say, you know, I'm just going to get the length first. So length will be length. We only have 1. So equal to, what did you guys do? Name tag length. Correct? And therefore you save the length of the word here. So therefore, once you want to be able to print the last 4 letters, then you did length minus 4. And let's say Michael Jordan. And if I run again, if I say David Diaz, the last 4 words should be so this automatically will give me the last 4 letters. But what if I just want to print it? I don't need to actually save. There's going to be times that you do want to be able to save the length, but not always. There's going to be times that, you know, I just want to be able to print it. So I'm just going to do the following, mark this, and I'm going to place it here. I'm actually just going to get, this is going to return, this is going to give me the length of the word. I'm not going to save it, I just need to use it once and that's it. If I need to use it over and over again, then I can do what I had before. But if I just want to be able to use it once, I'm just going to place it in here. But it gets a little more challenging to be able to read, right? And you want to be able to get used to this because this is going to help you just simplify your code. Because the only thing I want to be able to get the input from the user, then I just want to be able to print it. I don't need to save the length. I'm just going to use it once. Why would I need to be able to make an extra line? So therefore, I'm going to run it. Enter your full name, Michael. And that's it. But notice that it gets a little more challenging because in here you have name, that's substring, and then inside the parentheses, which we call the argument, is name.length. So this is going to give you the length of the word minus 4. So this is going to give you a number which goes into substrings that is going to return this part of it. But if I just actually just want to print it out, I don't even need to save this. I can actually just place this part and I'm just going to place it in here. And I'm going to run it. Enter your full name. And we'll run it again. Enter your full name. Michael Jordan. So notice that we went from this, well, from this to just having it concise into one line. But this takes time to be able to come to get to. It can be challenging. And we can do the same thing with many other things. So if you want to be able to just, let's say, print it to uppercase, I can just place it in here. But for now, let's go and, let's say we want to be able to print the first 3 letters. Well, that won't help. I think that's it. So we'll practice this tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody, and thank you for your time. I'll see you guys next time.